Citius, Altius, Fortius. Faster, higher, stronger. Pierre de Coubertin, the father of modern Olympics. He wanted to place importance on participation over winning. In fact, the Jesuit-educated Frenchman later used the games, the Olympic Games, as a way of bringing nations together after World War I. The important thing in life, he said, is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. These are actually timelessly inspiring words, words that ring true in our hearts. And you can see these words still ringing true today, as so many athletes with no real chance of medaling in the Olympics, they struggle, though, and they train for years of sacrificial dedication just to get 17th place in their event. And you know, they are thrilled to get 17th place. Why? Because they are just thrilled to be there. Do best at what they do. Why do they do it? Because it's the Olympics. And it's not just about the winning so much as it is about being your absolute best that you can be. Winning is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, it is fabulous, but the Olympics are about something much, much bigger. About best for yourself and for your teammates and for your country. But even more, it's about all of us striving for the best, all of us together. That's why I love watching the Olympics, because I love that feel that it has. Faster, higher, stronger. Father Diden shared how his own students know how to deprive themselves, he said, even condemn themselves to harsh regimens for a higher purpose. And he stressed how when they played in the same team, they would come together as one. External factors such as social and racial backgrounds would become irrelevant. And in a fractured society, this is exactly what our children need to focus on. It's so true in our modern world that we're living in. So much so this is true that we need to come together in our world more and more. So much so that in July of 2021, the session of the International Olympic Committee approved a change in the Olympic motto. They changed it because they wanted to recognize the unifying power of sport and the importance of solidarity, being together. And the change that they made added one word to the motto. They kept the original motto, and they added one word to the end of it. Citius, Altius, Fortius, Communiter. Faster, higher, stronger, together. Together. At the end, this is what brings us together. Imagine a world where everyone had a chance to participate in the Olympics. Or simply, imagine a world where everyone has a chance to rise faster and higher and stronger and be their very best. Well, the original Olympic founders and everyone who participates in the Olympics now, we can imagine a world. We can make that world as long as we're together. When everyone on earth, when everyone in this world can play and compete in life, then as humans, I think we have arrived. When everyone has a chance to be faster and higher and stronger at whatever they do and whatever they wish and whatever they want to do, then we have truly come together as a species and upheld what we have been created for, which is togetherness. Together with each other and together with God. So are you, my question, are you striving in your lives to be faster, higher, and stronger? Who's striving for that in your lives? Yeah, raise your hands. Why not? At what you do. I'm not talking about shooting for the Olympics here, really. I'm talking about doing what you do in a way that's faster and higher and stronger. Are you doing everything that you can as people to bring us all together? So many Christians are doing this. It's wonderful. And it's nice to hear of athletes expressing their deep faith when they're interviewed and when they are celebrating whatever they're accomplishing. It's nice to hear that, and they're identifying their faith as a source of their strength. It's also so nice and encouraging to see people of faith working tirelessly in our world to make a difference in this world in other meaningful ways as well. Like, for example, the Isaiah 61 Cafe right up there in Laconia. I don't know if you've ever heard about that. It's a homeless shelter up in Laconia. And I consider these people that run this Isaiah 61 Cafe to be Olympians in my mind because of what they do for homeless people right in our backyard up in Laconia. They believe in what they're doing, and they're doing it out of their love of God and their love of people. And this is their mission statement to this Isaiah 61 Cafe right up in Laconia. Their mission is to provide a place for the less fortunate and brokenhearted in Laconia to have access to bathroom facilities, showers, lockers, washers, and dryers on a daily basis. And they say that we provide food and clothing and supplies from donations as well as purchased items. We provide daily Bible studies and training for the development of life, parenting, and job skills. And as needed, we provide transportation and work as advocates with social services and state assistance. We also provide worship and music and message to inspire the less fortunate and brokenhearted to find hope, healing, and purpose in life. I can think of no one that exemplifies faster, higher, stronger better than that cafe up there in Laconia. If you haven't heard about it, take a look on the line on the website. And it's an amazing facility that they have now up there. And they actually have 31 beds, I think, now that house the homeless, especially on these cold nights, which is so, so very important. In my mind, they are exemplifying the best of humanity. Faster, higher, stronger together. And that's what they're doing. All of us together, even the homeless. We need everyone. We each need each other. It's easy to get discouraged sometimes. That's why we need each other so much. It's easy to be discouraged and even discouraging, life around us. And I sometimes even get discouraged with some people of faith. I like what Amy was saying and Guy were saying today. It kind of reminded me of some of the things that I get discouraged about sometimes too. It seems like, we have a job to do in this world. And in my mind, especially as Christians, we have a job to do in this world. And that job we should strive for that job, to do that job in every way we can, faster, higher, stronger, together. But it makes me scratch my head sometimes when many Christians just seem to be focusing on their exit strategy from this life. This makes me kind of bewildered sometimes. Simply waiting for a better world to come rather than making their world better right here and now. They want faster, higher, stronger in the next world. They don't really care about this world. Christians are looking for heaven as their exit from this world. And strangely enough, I don't see that as much different than what a lot of the wealthier, the extreme wealthy in our world are doing today, devising ways to travel to other worlds as their exit strategy. Get out of Earth because it's going to be ruined. So we need to find a way to get all the wealthy people up to Mars and colonize up there so we don't lose our species or our status. I don't know what it is, but humanity, when humanity is in peril on Earth, we, meaning the wealthy, have a place to go and escape. Why not save humanity right here on this earth right now and make the world better right now? Why not do all we can here? Now, so many Christians just want to bide their time until we all get to heaven. But I think in doing so, we ignore our responsibility to the earth. We see it sometimes as less important. But what could be less important than taking care of what God created? And what could be less important than to do everything we can for people, for everyone, for the least in this earth? Verse 28 of our text today, have you never heard? Have you never understood the Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of all the earth? If God created all that's around us, shouldn't we do our best for it? And again, sadly, many people of faith ignore our responsibility for social justice too. Earth justice, yeah, but social justice as well, because to be honest, we see it as secondary to doing the will of God. But I think it is the will of God. I think fairness and equality is God's will. Verse 29 of our text, he gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. We should be giving power to the weak and strength to the powerless in this world. But people of faith sometimes say, it's all going to be fixed when we get to heaven. Well, yeah, but why should we wait? He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless here and now. How does God give strength to the weak and power to the powerless? Well, not magically out of nowhere. It just doesn't go zapping down on them. Oh, I got all kinds of power. No, it doesn't do that at all. It's not just in the next world either. God's going to do this in heaven. No, he strengthens the weak through those who can give them strength. Through us. And through people like the Isaiah 61 Cafe and so many other organizations and people of faith who are working and doing their absolute best to accomplish what Isaiah is talking about right here. Through us. That's our job. Especially people of faith. It's our job to do it. In 1948, the London Olympic Games was a milestone for athletes who use wheelchairs. English doctor Ludwig Guttmann founded the International Wheelchair Games to help rehabilitate wounded veterans of World War II. He used sports therapy to do so. He invited wheelchair-using athletes to compete, and the event eventually became what we know as the Paralympic Games. It changed the lives of so many disabled athletes and disabled people. It changed their lives. People became inspired by those athletes who were giving it their all, even though they were disabled. Change the world. And it's our responsibility to change the world for the better, not just wait for a better world in the afterlife. It reminds me of a parable that Jesus told of a man who was entrusted with money and expected to do his best with it until the owner returned. Remember that parable? What did the man do? He buried it so that he wouldn't lose it. And this kept the money safe. But it in no way allowed it to multiply and grow. Well, the owner returned and questioned him about why he didn't use what he was given to increase it and grow it. In other words, why didn't you use your gifts to make a positive difference? Instead, the man just waited for the owner to return, to give it back to him. I guess it's why it's discouraging to hear of too many Christians just simply waiting for the next world. I get it, though. I understand life can be hard. Sometimes very hard. I get that. I understand that. But the next world is going to come for us when the time is right. And as Jesus said when he was on earth, he said, "Blessed is that servant whom their master will find at work when he arrives," not just simply waiting. Jesus isn't looking when he comes. He's not looking to find us waiting at the bus stop for the 4 o'clock bus to heaven. It's not what he wants out of us. As Pierre de Coubertin said, the father of the modern Olympics, he said, the important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. So fight well. Fight well in this life. Now. Popular singer and songwriter John Mayer, whom I listen to a lot because I really enjoy his music, he's got this one song that's interesting to me and frustrating too at the same time. This song is called "Waiting on the World to Change." Lyrics from his song, it says, it's not that we don't care, we just know the fight ain't fair. So we keep waiting and waiting for the world. You know, when I was a kid, my mother made me pick up my room and do other undesirable activities and chores. And I would complain to my mother, and I said, "Mom, this isn't fair." And her reply would always be, "Chris, life isn't fair. Now go do it." That's what I like to say to John Mayer. A wonderful singer, songwriter, musician. I do enjoy his music. But I like to say to John Mayer, and the younger generation that's waiting for things to change before they engage in the change process themselves because they feel that things aren't fair right now and they're waiting for things to change. You know, and I get it again. I get it. This world is largely controlled by the powerful and the ultra-wealthy, but there's still so much that average people can do. Like you and I, we can do so much, especially when we do it commutus, together. Faster, higher, stronger, together. John Mayer said we just know that the fight ain't fair, so we keep waiting on the world to change. I don't think you'd ever hear that from an Olympic athlete. Or anything like that from an Olympic athlete. If there's a challenge or an obstacle, Olympic athletes overcome it. That's just why they're Olympians. You know, I think my mother would have said to John Mayer, she would have said, "John, life isn't fair. Go do it. Don't wait for things to change. Just sit around and wait for things to happen. Like I'm going to sit around and wait for my room to get cleaned up. Who's going to do that? My mother? No, she said, you do it." John Mayer, let's change the world now. My mother would say, "Go do it. Go change your world. Go change the world that you can change." Yes, we can't change everything, but we can change a lot in this world. And indeed, many young and old people are all about the task of changing the world for the better. And many Christians, thankfully, people of faith, are changing the world in great, great ways. There's so many of them. You might ask the question, well, how can we as individuals, in small communities, how can we change the world? We can't direct the course of nations and governments by ourselves, but we can change our world. The world around us that we live in every single day, that's the world that we can change. Are you changing your world for the better? And by changing your world for the better every day, are you thereby doing your part in changing the whole world together? Commutus. Or are you just waiting for things to change? Deciding that life just isn't fair and never goes your way. Nothing I can do. I think I'm just going to sit here and wait for the next world to come. Sounds like Eeyore, doesn't it? I think I'm just going to wait. Nothing I can do. You know, the time of burying our treasure and waiting at heaven's bus stop for the next world it's got to come to an end. God has given you the power to change your world. The same power that rose Christ from the dead lives in you. Change your world. So change your world with that power. Change it. And I always love that old expression, bloom where you are planted. You know that expression? You see it on like pictures and things like that. Bloom where you are planted. In other words, wherever you are, blossom your life, grow. Flower. Be beautiful. Have a beautiful life and do everything you can to blossom. Do you ever notice that flowers and grasses, they grow in the most inconspicuous places sometimes? It's like underneath my driveway, this grass. I don't know how it does it. In these little plants, they grow up through the driveway, and they just out of the power of life. It just nothing holds them back. And they find a way to grow. They're blooming where they're planted. That's what we need to be. We need to be people that do that. Changing the world for the better. And if we change our own worlds for the better, if we strive like dedicated athletes to make our own worlds go higher and faster and stronger, then together we can do what it says in verse 31. Together we can soar high on wings like eagles. We can run and not grow weary. We can walk and not faint. We can do that together. And that's what the Olympics, I think, are all about. And in my opinion, that's what life is all about. We haven't been put here on this world by God so that we can just wait in some terminal for our ride to the next world. And why be here at all? Why be here on earth? We're just waiting for the next. What's our point of being here then? God just might as well just get us on to the next then. But he doesn't. He doesn't. The Olympics are all about being together here. That is the Olympic dream. You know, every time, and we'll see this I think the Olympics are over in a week, aren't they? Yeah. Every time at the closing of the Olympic ceremonies, the athletes, they march again. They march in the beginning. You know that? And they're all with their countries. And every time at the closing of the Olympic ceremony, they march in again, except they don't come in with their teammates from their own nations as they do in the opening ceremonies. They come in differently to the closing ceremonies, but they haven't always done it like this. Back in the 1956 Olympic Games in Melbourne, Australia, the world was living in its usual, heightened political tension that it normally lives in. Something different. I know it's what always seems to be happening in our world today. Nowadays, no exception at all. So the world was tense back in 1956 at the Olympic Games in Melbourne. So much so that the organizers of the Melbourne Olympics were planning on canceling the closing ceremony march. They were fearing that the teams marching in would cause disruption and chaos and add to the already tense situation. Well, shortly before the closing ceremony, a 17-year-old Australian of Chinese descent, John Ian Wing, he wrote this anonymous letter to Sir Wilfred Kent Hughes. He was the president of the organizing committee there in Melbourne. And in this letter that John Ian Wing, he wrote, he said this. He said, "I believe it has been suggested that a march should be put on during the closing ceremonies. And you said it couldn't be done. But I think it can," he said. "I think it can be done." And then he explained his idea for the parade. He said this. He said, "There will only be one nation in that parade. War and politics and nationality will all be forgotten." And he said, well, you can do it in a small way. No team is to keep together, and there should be no more than 2 teammates together. And so it was. On the 8th of December in 1956, over 500 athletes from every country marched in a joyous procession. And there was no specific order, and everyone mingled in the center of the field together. This is what they did, and this formed a wonderful tradition. It was born that day, and all the flag bearers walked one behind the other, followed by the competitors, united together without distinction of any kind. So many are just waiting for their world to change. So many are just waiting for the world to change. So many are just waiting for the next world to come. They're waiting for God to do it for them or God to do it for us. But understand, God only has 2 hands. Oh, they're right here. You want God to do something for you, here's his hands. You do it in his strength, in his power. So engage your hands and your feet. Engage your whole selves. To have faith like an Olympian is to do all that we can to soar like eagles. Individually, we can do our part. And only together, as we individually do our parts, only together can God change the world through us. Please stand for our final.